You're standing by the paddock gate. The afternoon is still. The sun has dropped a little and the light turns golden through the branches. Your horse is about 20 meters away, head raised, ears pointing towards something at the far end of the field. There's nothing there, nothing you can see, and yet he's been staring at exactly the same spot for 30 seconds, motionless, with that stillness that isn't calm but total attention. You say his name. He doesn't respond. He's somewhere else. Most people in that moment think the horse got distracted, that he heard something in the field, that maybe there's a bird or the wind moved something, a simple explanation for a simple moment. But that's not what's happening. And once you understand what your horse is perceiving in that instant, you'll never look at that moment the same way again. Your horse doesn't live in the same visual world as you. Literally. What he perceives when you're together in that paddock is a version of reality, so different from yours that if you could see it for 1 second, you probably wouldn't recognize it. Not because it's strange, but because it's enormously wider. This is what horses see before you do. And the last thing on this list has to do directly with you, with something you carry inside every time you approach him, and that he perceives before you say a single word. Let's start with what makes the horse's eye one of the most extraordinary visual structures among large mammals. The horse's eye is the largest eye of any land animal, not in proportion to its body, in actual size. Each eye measures approximately 5 centimeters in diameter. To compare it with something concrete, the human eye measures around 2.5 centimeters. That's not just a difference in size. It's a difference in how much light enters, how much retinal space exists to process information, how much of the world can be captured in a single instant. And a horse's eyes are positioned on the sides of the head. That gives him a visual field of almost 340 degrees. He can see almost everything around him at the same time. While you need to turn your head to see what's beside you, your horse already saw it several seconds ago without moving a single muscle. But this is where the story gets deeper. That visual breadth has a cost, and that cost completely changes the way the horse experiences the world. He has two blind spots, one directly behind his tail, another directly in front of his nose. The space right in front of him, the same space where you sometimes put your hand for him to smell, is a space he can't see clearly. He compensates with smell, with his whiskers, with the tactile sensitivity of his muzzle. But visually, there's a gap there. Many caretakers discover this in the most disconcerting way. They approach the horse frontally in silence, expecting him to see them coming, and the horse reacts with a startle that seems disproportionate. It wasn't nervousness. It was that they appeared out of nowhere in the one place the horse can't see. That's not a spooky horse. That's a perfectly designed horse that you just approached from the wrong angle. Now comes something that stops people when they hear it for the first time. Your horse can see movement much sooner than you can. Not just sooner, in a way that has no direct comparison to human visual experience. A horse's eyes contain a specialized band of photoreceptors in the retina that scientists call the visual streak. It's a horizontal zone of high density that allows him to process with precision everything that appears along that line, especially peripheral movement. A predator moving through bushes 200 meters away, a plastic bag drifting across the ground 100 meters away. A human figure appearing on the horizon before it has any recognizable shape. Your horse sees all of it and processes it as potential threat information before his conscious brain finishes analyzing whether it's actually dangerous or not. That's why there's a moment many riders know well. You're walking along calmly, the horse seems relaxed, and suddenly he tenses, sidesteps, raises his head. You saw nothing, but he was already processing something that entered the edge of his visual field several seconds before his body reacted. It wasn't unpredictable. It was a response to real information that reached him before it reached you. And this is where everything changes. When you understand that your horse lives in a state of constant visual monitoring, that he is literally seeing more of the world than you at every moment, his behavior stops seeming nervous or unpredictable. It starts to seem like what it really is, the response of an extraordinarily fine perceptual system to the environment he shares with you. There's something else about a horse's vision that almost no one considers, and it has to do with light. Horses have a structure at the back of the eye called the tapetum lucidum, the same one that makes a cat's eyes glow in the dark. This reflective layer amplifies available light and allows the horse to see in very low light conditions with a clarity the human eye cannot match. At dawn, when the grass is still covered in dew and the light is barely a soft gray on the horizon, your horse can already see clearly. He already knows what's in the paddock. He's already assessed the surroundings. You arrive minutes later squinting, looking for where you left your boots, and he's been awake for a while, fully informed of everything around him. But the transition between light and darkness is where the horse's system has a vulnerability worth understanding. Moving from a brightly lit space to a dark one, or the other way around, takes the horse's eye longer to adapt than the human eye. When you bring your horse from the bright outdoor sun into the dim light of a stable, there's a moment when he genuinely can't see well. He's not being difficult. He's waiting for his visual system to adjust. Many of the moments of resistance when entering enclosed spaces have to do with exactly this. Not with the space itself, with the sudden darkness that feels to the horse, for a few moments, like going blind. Now comes the part about color. And here, almost everyone has to revise what they thought they knew. For a long time, it was assumed that horses were colorblind in the broad sense of the term, that they saw the world in a kind of grayscale or neutral tones. That's not exactly what science found. Horses are dichromatic. They have two types of visual cones, while humans have three. They can distinguish blue and yellow clearly. Red and green are confused for them. They appear as variations of a muted brown. What that means in practice is that your horse sees certain colors that you take for granted in a completely different way. A red obstacle on a jumping course can look visually similar to the ground for the horse if there isn't enough contrast in shape. The bright green of a meadow may seem less vivid than you imagine when you're standing beside him, admiring the landscape. But the blue of a clear sky, the blue of a water bucket, the yellow of a flower, those colors come through clearly. There's something profoundly quiet in this. The same meadow that you see as a palette of greens and golds, your horse sees differently. Not worse, differently. And yet, when you're there together, standing on the same grass, under the same sky, you're sharing that place in ways that neither of you can fully explain. And this brings us to the last thing, what you may never have considered. Your horse perceives something that isn't outside. It's inside you. Horses are prey animals. For millions of years, their survival depended on reading the environment with absolute precision, on detecting signs of tension before they became real danger. That didn't just train them to see well, it trained them to read body language with a sensitivity that goes far beyond what most humans can imagine. When you approach your horse, he sees things in you that you don't know you're showing. The tension in your shoulders before you take him by the halter, the small shift in your posture when you're in a hurry, the stiffness in your step when something is worrying you. The difference between the body of someone who arrives calm and the body of someone who arrives with something unresolved inside. He's not reading your mind, he's reading your body. But he does it with the same precision with which he reads the horizon looking for movement. And what caretakers who have spent years working with horses describe, again and again, is that the horse responds to that information before you do anything, before you touch him, before you speak, sometimes before you've finished walking into the paddock. He's already assessed something in you that you yourself haven't processed yet. So the next time you approach him and he lifts his head and looks at you, it's not just that he saw you coming. It's that he's already processed something about how you're arriving today. Something in the way you walk, in the tension of your arms, in the rhythm of your breathing. You arrived thinking you were going to see your horse, but he was already seeing you long before you reached him. And everything he found in that reading, calm or tension, stillness or inner noise, is already registered. He's already decided how to receive you. He already knows, before you say a single word, what kind of encounter this is going to be. You don't need to explain it to him. He already read it in your body. And what he does in the next few minutes is his response to what he saw in you.